meeting have been circulated to all members in advance of the meeting, and hard copies have been placed on your seats. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have apologies from Councillor Arrowsmith, Councillor George Fairhurst, Councillor Holland, Councillor Horton, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Kelly Reading and Councillor Billy Morgan. Are there any further apologies for this afternoon's meeting?
Councillor Jenna Prescott.
Any other apologies? Thank you.
I invite the Leader of the Council to formally propose the election of Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to move Councillor Susan Loudon to be the next Mayor for Wigan. I've known Susan for 25 years, I discovered. And I'm sure when I finish, you'll see she has the credentials to be the most successful citizen. Susan was born and brought up in Leigh. She only moved to Ireland when she got married, so Lord lived on the east side of the road. She took a Saturday job at Leigh Library, and I'm sure that when she left school she was extremely pleased that she was able to get a job full-time at Leigh Library, so she becomes the second mayor who's been an employee of the council. During that period she helped to move Leigh Library from its old site at Railway Road onto the new site it was then in the town hall square. And to arrive to other local authority jobs, Susan became a full-time mum when the daughter Jenny, sitting behind me, was born. And however, she did decide to broaden her education experience, and eventually she took a degree at Tottenham Institute of Technology and got a 2-1. She's excellent, so congratulations on that. And then in 1990, which was when I met her, she took a life-changing decision. She decided to join the local Labour Party, and we met at that branch. I think, Susan, it's fair to say the branch at that time was dominated by two great characters, Joe Clark and Jack Sumner, both former mayors of Wigan. They were always arguing, Jack and Joe, about who made the greatest or least contribution to the mining industry in the Wigan Borough. One was an engineer, one, of course, a union official. But, of course, if you tried to join in the argument, one or the other, they would both sit on you. You couldn't so. And Susan, I think, coped very well with this particular duel, particularly when she, in 1994, was selected by Alton to become the third member of the ward. On the council, Susan had a very impressive record and career that moved upwards. She became very effective in the role as chair of scrutiny and became rightly the first woman to serve on the cabinet. After 6 years of that, she was nominated to be deputy mayor. I'm sure there are two people who Susan would like to have been here today. One, of course, is her board colleague Anne Turner, who died so tragically a month or so ago, and will mark her passing later. The second, of course, is husband Phil. Phil was a great and loyal supporter of Susan, and she was deeply affected, rightly so, by his sudden sad loss. Phil would have been so proud today of Susan. However, Phil also possessed a very dry and piercing sense of humour, and perhaps I'm sure he'd have had some views today about the pomp and ceremony of today. Amongst the many things that Susan shared with Phil was an appreciation of history and its influence, and happily during her term of office she'll be able to celebrate some notable anniversaries. I picked out a few, Susan, that we were able to miss. 15th of June, of course, is the 800th anniversary of the signing of the Magna Carta. 18th of June is the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo. 15th of June is the 75th anniversary of VJ Day. 22nd of August, Mrs. Susan, is the 530th anniversary of the accession of Henry VII, who replaced some King Richard. Susan will remember that. And on the 29th of August, it's the 110th anniversary of the meeting at the George Hotel in Huddersfield that set up the Northern Union, who became the Rugby League. And there were 3 local clubs who were present at that meeting who signed up. So you can think of 2 of them, tell me the third. Susan has developed recently a great passion for rugby league, and particularly, of course, for the Centurions. She tries to get there as often as she can, and she really enjoys the spectacle of the physical contests of the game, but even she will admit that she's got a lot to learn about the details of the game, and particularly what that strange thing the person the referee is pointing at all of the time. So, Susan, I hope that to help you with that, I've got you a couple of books. One is called 1895 and All That, which is an interesting social history of rugby league and its development. And this was quite a rare book to get. And I thought it appropriate, actually, when I went online, I couldn't get a new copy, but I could get one that had been in the library. I thought that was pretty appropriate. But actually, to get it here today costs more than the book. Understanding rugby league. So maybe you look at the referee does that with no readings. I think members of the council who believe that Susan Loudon has all of the experience and qualities to be an excellent mayor. His definitely she was supported by her sister Joan, and sorry, Mary, she was supported by her sister Joan, and both of them during the last year had to be called upon to deputise for the mayor, which means deputy mayor, and they've done an excellent job there. And of course, they're both supported in their work by Joan's guide dog, Russell. So I think the first time we ever had a mayoral dog. So with Russell, of course, Joan leads a very full and active life, and I'm sure she'll be a great help to her sister during the year. So we wish you both, incoming mayor, mayoress, and mayoral dog, a very successful and enjoyable year. And I'm delighted to move the motion that Councillor Susan Loudon be a fit and proper person to be the mayor of Wigan. First one where we next. Beautifully good.
I now invite the Deputy Leader to second.
Thank you, Madam. Of course, I've known Susan for 20 years now, and I think my first experience of dealing with Susan in a committee was the Planning and Development Committee, which I'm sure all of you will remember well. And in those days, we used to send newish councillors on to planning course, which took place in universities all over the country. And Susan and Audrey were dispatched to Scotland. So I'm not sure whether the independence debate started at that time, but I should imagine that they may have had some influence on it. They went to St Andrews, and I still possess the golf ball, but they brought me back. And obviously there's some disgruntled Scotsman somewhere looking for his ball, but he lost on the 17th green. Can I just say that the leader touched on there about Terry and I have had many debates with Susan on Richard III. And I nearly brought myself today to wear a white rose, but then I thought, no. And there were all circumstances, not because of Richard, but obviously the Pennines have quite a bit to do with it, but I wouldn't want to wear a white rose. And Susan's slightly confused with history, as Terry and I rely quite heavily on the bard himself, William Shakespeare, and we know got it right. And I was at York races only 2 weeks ago, and it did spring into my mind when I saw the horses in York, why he wanted to give his kingdom up for a horse, which we know very well to be true. Can I just say that I certainly think Susan will be certainly fitted for the role of governor. She'll have the support of Joe and the dogs. And can I just say on this point, that when we consider our council meetings in this chamber, and we look up and see pictures of various speakers, and I'll include myself on that, I think the pictures today in the chamber are certainly an improvement on the pictures up on that board. I think Susan will do an excellent job, as I've said. There's a lot of people I know Susan will be very proud of what you've achieved. I know Phil will be extremely proud if he was here today. I know Jenny's extremely proud, and we are proud. It's been a fantastic experience along the way, being on committees and cabinets and various other panels that we've served on, and I've certainly enjoyed that experience because it's good to have a colleague that you can depend on, and good to have a colleague that you know is talking sense and leading us in the right direction. So I have no hesitation in seconding the legal proposal that Susan Lowndes is a true correct person to be the mayor of this metropolitan borough of Wigan for the forthcoming municipality. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Loudon becoming mayor of this borough, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? I will now present the new mayor, Councillor Susan Loudon, with the mayoral requisition. We will now retire to the parlour and the new mayor to be rolled. Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I will now invite the new mayor to make the declaration of acceptance of office and to sign the code of conduct form.
I, Susan Lowndes, having been elected to the office of Mayor of Wigan Council, declare that I take office upon myself. will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the Council's Code of Conduct in the performance of my function in that office, as that code stands from time to time.
I'd like to introduce my mayoress, Joan Lee, and Russell the dog. My chaplain will be Reverend Brendan Cattrall of Wigan Chapel, Alberton. Reverend Cattrall will now offer prayers of thanksgiving for my election.
Let's join together in prayer. Let us pray. Divine Spirit, soul of the universe, God of love, we ask for you to pour out your blessing on Susan. If she begins her work as Mayor of the Borough, may she undertake her tasks with humility and cheerfulness. Support her in the round of duty and inspire her in service. On this day of promise, we give thanks for all who serve others and all who will support Susan as she represents the borough. We ask for your blessing on the Mayoress Joan, on Russell the dog, the retiring mayor, the councillors and officers, and all who work for the common good. And we remember especially today Alderman Anne Turner, who passed away recently and who served with such devotion. O God, in the spirit of Jesus, the true servant, may we be blessed this day and forevermore.
Thank you everyone. I'll stand up. It's a really big call, this. Thank you David and Peter for such complimentary words. I have to say, it must have taken me a long time to find complimentary words, because most times I'm known as being outspoken, firm and opinionated. But I do like the description that was put in the Wigan Observer last month, which described me as unconventional, so I quite like that. Thank you for all the family and friends who've come here today to join with me in the highlight of my life. And thank you for those who travelled a great distance, particularly my daughter and her husband who come from Glasgow. Most of you have known me for over 20 years, so I'll try to find something that I can tell you that you may not know. Obviously the leaders told you that I'm not an Abertonian, I'm a Lather, and I'm told regularly by residents I'm not an Abertonian. You have to be born in Aberton to be an Abertonian. I lived in Leigh for nearly 20 years and moved to Aberton because Phil, my husband, worked in Bolton and I worked in Leigh. Aberton was a good place. In my early life, my dad died when I was 11, which did have a profound effect on our lives, making my mum, Joan and myself very independent and very self-sufficient. I've had to think about this, political influences, and apart from Margaret Thatcher, and you can imagine what the influence was there, if there was any influence, it came from my Auntie Annie, who was a strong woman who lived on High Fold in Leigh. She was a member of the women's section at Leigh, and I have been told that she interviewed the leader as a new candidate in the Leigh constituency. So whether she had good choice or not, you have to decide yourself. I have worked in local government for 30 years in total, and I do believe it's an important role, it will play an important role in the lives of all our residents, from birth to death. And it's that belief that persuaded me to become a councillor in 1994. And as the leader said, breaking up the solicitors' firm of Sumner and Clark. I worked alongside Jack Sumner and Joe Clark, and I was very lucky to be able to learn from them. And time won't allow me to tell you all the things I learned from them. I love the job of being a councillor. I enjoy finding a way through all the guidelines and the rules to help people do what they want to do, as long as it doesn't disadvantage someone else. As many of you will remember, Phil suddenly died in 2006, and he always said he would never make a mayoress. He said he didn't have the legs for it. But he was wrong, because he did have good legs. So my sister is to join me in the latest challenge of being the mayor of the borough. She is an Abertonian. She was born in Howbridge. She's fair-minded and she's feisty, and she's suffered with poor eyesight for most of her life, but about 15 years ago became registered blind. When we were younger, Joan was an excellent swimmer and used to quite often swim in the sea when we went on holiday. You know when you come out of the sea and you can't find where you started off, you can't find your towel, you can't find where to go. Well, Joan had no chance, she couldn't find anything. So my dad used to say to me, go and get your sister and bring her back. So I have a strong affiliation with guide dogs, because I know exactly what the job is that they do. So I've chosen that as my charity for this year. Russell is a fantastic support to Joan, but she also is a good support to John, Joan's husband. As you will already know, and you've seen on the pictures, we have named 2 dogs, Warrior and Lee. We couldn't have Centurion, it's too long. So, Warrior and Lee. Warrior is the black one, and Lee is the blonde one, after our 2 rugby teams. Obviously we have Russell here today, and we've got Quinn, who's in training, and we've got Warrior, which is who's with Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher, who are the puppy walkers for Warrior. So do you think he'll stand up and let us have a look at him? Warrior is 5 months old. 5 months old. He was born in December. Lee is about 2 weeks younger than Warrior. And both teams are anxious to meet you guys. During the year, I would like to highlight the importance of well-trained dogs. They are our companions. They're and particularly with injured veterans. I'm told that the best speeches should be like dresses, short enough to be interesting, but long enough to cover the subject. So I have one very short story to tell you, and then we'll have finished. My dad was a deputy shot firer at Bickershire Colliery in Lee, where they're building the marina now. And during the war, he continued to work down the pit as many miners did. So as part of his war effort, he became a special constable. His beat was the town centre of Lee. During the war, drivers were asked not to park their cars on the road during darkness, and there were no street lamps and obviously no parking lights. So anyone found parking on the street would be booked. My dad was on duty one night and discovered a car parked on Sugar Street. People in Lee will know where Sugar Street is, I'll explain to you later. No lights, in the dark. So he booked it. And I'm told he had it towed away. Sugar Street was just outside the town hall in Lee, where we put the stars in the pavement. And can you guess whose car it was? It was the mayor's car. So he was a great believer in doing the right thing at the right time. So perhaps I will be able to follow that. I promise I will try. I will try to do the best thing, whatever the consequences are. Finally, I will be holding a civic service on Sunday the 31st of May at Chowden Chapel. I hope you can join us. There will be good music and a friendly congregation to welcome you, and it is a fantastic building. The procession will assemble at 9:45 and will depart at 10 a.m. prompt for a circular walk back to the church. Refreshments will be served in the church hall opposite. Thank you ever so much for everything that you've done for me over the past 21 years. And thank you for being here today, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you. Retiring mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This borough has over many years been privileged with many outstanding mayors that have represented this authority at the very highest level with great dignity. It is our highest ceremonial and public role that requires dedication and commitment, and Councillor Cullen has demonstrated all of these attributes and more. You will be aware of Phil's tragic loss when her husband, Terry Cullen, sadly passed away, and then her own personal fight with cancer shortly after. One event is enough for anyone, but two in succession would be more than enough for anyone. Indeed, it would have been understandable if Phil had stepped down and ceased all her noble duties until the end of this municipal year, so she could come to terms with her loss and recuperate from major surgery. But she didn't. And the reason she didn't describes Phil's outlook on life. And she would often say to me, on the very rare occasion she thinks of herself, Terry, I don't know why this has happened to me and my family, but I know some people will be worse off than me, and that's what keeps me going. Representing the people of Wigan West and the people of the borough, by recognising, promoting and championing individuals, groups and charities that quite often go unnoticed, will provide a safety net for those less fortunate than ourselves, became her main focus in life. Returning to her moral duties is what helped Phil recover from her own personal problems and private grief. But she couldn't do it on her own. Her son John and daughter Trish stepped in to carry on the good work their dad had started. And following their mum's lead, they have taken the position of consort and demonstrated the same fortitude as their mum, putting to one side their own personal grief to finish off in style what Terry Cullen had started. I can imagine how proud he must be now to look down on us today, with all his family in this chamber, receiving civic recognition for a truly remarkable demonstration of civic duty. Strength, dedication and fortitude manifest themselves in many forms, and Phil may be slight in physical stature, and the surgery did take its toll, but it didn't prevent her from organising the recent clinic in Wigan West, and in spite of reservations from her friends, proceeded to pick up litter and rubbish from the street. Indicative that she is no streaky violet and has gone above and beyond the call of duty. Members of this council, Councillor Cullen, in true Wigan tradition, has represented this borough with pride and dedication, putting to one side her own health and good. And I put it to you that the warmest thanks of this council be accorded to Councillor Phil Cullen for the courageous manner in which he has filled the office of Mayor of this metropolitan borough through the past municipal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howell. I'm sure that Phil can probably manage another one, but unfortunately she's got to, because I'm now going to invite Councillor Steve Dover to formally second the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this matter. 12 months ago, I described Phil Cullen as a lovely lady with hidden strengths. And her events over the past year have shown just what strengths have been with him. Yet despite personal tragedies, what a shining example we have had of how some of the world's public office should conduct themselves. So early that period, I cannot recall a time when she didn't put people with her and the role of the Mayor's office at the front of her thoughts. And so it gives me great pleasure to second this motion that the warmest thanks of this council be accorded to Councillor Phil Cullen for the able, courteous and acceptable manner in which she has filled the office of the Mayor of this metropolitan borough in the past municipal year.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, Councillor Dover. All of those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Would any other members like to speak? Yes, Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, Councillor Cullen has had an incredibly difficult year, suffering both personal tragedy and a health scare. To suffer one would have been unbearable enough. To suffer both in quick succession must have been a terrible weight to bear. Nonetheless, she has been an excellent mayor, both restoring civilised debate to this chamber and, as I've said before, meetings have been far more bearable in terms of the dignity with which they've been conducted under your supervision than they have been recently, and let's all try and keep it that way. And you have been at every event I've seen you at, both incredibly pleasant and incredibly friendly, and you've borne up under what must have been terrible circumstances this year with great grace. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. I've no doubt that you will continue to serve the people of Wigan West excellently. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I'd like to thank Councillor Cullen for a time and year with me. I think she's done an exceptional job, and with the things that have been mentioned, I think, like Councillor Halliwell said, anybody would understand why somebody would put it to one side and put it secondary in their life. And I think one thing I've noticed, that and I'm going to take strength from, that no matter what life throws at you, no matter how difficult it can be, you always came with a smile. And I think that's something we can all take from this chamber. No matter what life throws at us, whether we can control it or not, we can all keep on smiling. Now, I did promise you something today, and I've been distracted this weekend with certain events. However, I know there's a couple of... It was a bit of a secret, but the Sandwich Library celebrated its 50th year, and I was kind of dared to let my secret out, which is baked cakes. My credibility might be crashing. And they did promise a cake to Councillor Cullen for today's meeting, but it will be coming this week for you, don't panic. I know Trish is coming with cream as well. Alright, thank you and well done.
Any other members? Thank you. I invite Councillor Phil Cullen, the retiring mayor, to respond.
Thank you so much for those very kind words. They do mean a lot. And thank you to Steve and Terry for continuing work on the ward while I've been performing mayoral duties and with illness. They've worked so hard and tirelessly on the ward, and thank you so much for that. Thank you very much to James and Gareth for their kind words as well. Thank you. Right, I'm now going to do my speech, which is really a page long of thank yous. First of all, congratulations to Sue and Joan on their roles as Mayor and Mayoress. It has been both an honour and a privilege to serve the Borough of Wigan as Mayor and attend such wonderful events during my mayoral year. I've had 3 chaplains, 3 drivers and 3 consorts, so it really has been a different year for me. As you all know, I suffered a dreadful trauma, but thankfully both Trish and John stepped in to help fulfil the role of Terry, with Sue and Joan covering events during my illness. I have so many people to thank for helping me through this year. I cannot mention everyone, but I feel I need to mention some of them by name. Leader Peter Smith for his kind tribute, Councillor Terry Owell for his urology, and Councillor Sue Greensmith for her readings at the funeral of Terry. I would also like to thank Joe O'Connor, Diane Causey, Christine Charnock, Lindsay Carrington and Joan Barr for the help that they have given me, especially when Terry passed away and they very kindly rearranged the Mayor's Ball. I would also like to thank Andrew Sharrock, Michael Winstanley, Judith Allison and Councillors Billy Rotherham, Ron Conway and George Davis, who helped me raise much needed funds for my charity, the Cancer Care Unit at Wigan Infirmary, which currently stands at around £30,000, which is a fantastic achievement for just 5 people to help. I would like to pass on a thank you to Donna, who has been a wonderful support to myself, Trish and John, but most of all to the members of this chamber who had faith in me and gave me your vote to become the Mayor of Wigan. Thank you.
Thank you, members, and well done for the year that you've just completed, and I hope that your future within the council and at home is a good one. Thank you, Phil. We're now going to make a presentation to the retiring Mayor, Councillor Phil Cullen, her consorts John and Trish, and I believe we have something for Phil for Terry. and propose the appointment of the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I firstly congratulate you, Madam Mayor, on your appointment to the Mayor of the Borough for the municipal year. I will make my comments brief as today is your special day. It is an honour and a privilege to propose my best mate and colleague, Councillor Ron Conway, to the position of Deputy Mayor for this municipal year. Madam Mayor, I know that Ron and Janet will support you 100% this year. Ron and Janet will make an excellent Deputy Mayor and Mayoress because of the people they are. They're passionate, loyal, funny, caring, and always put people first. And I know they like dressing up, so this will be an excellent year. Here at Wigan, we are privileged to have strong community ethos and volunteers who go the extra mile. And that has proven itself over the last 5 years with the savage cuts we have endured, and the next 5 years will be no easier. That's why it will be a great legacy that Ron will become the Deputy Mayor and then the Mayor next year, because Ron started as a volunteer in the 90s and continued to do this role and still chairs the local forum. I could go on with stories of my own and Ron's adventures over the past 20 years, but I will keep my powder dry. Depending how Ron treats me this year depends on what stories I tell next year. So it is with great pleasure that I propose that Councillor Ron Conway be elected Deputy Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Wigan for this ensuing municipal year.
Thank you. I now invite Councillor John Hilton to form the second election of Deputy Mayor.
Alright, thank you, Madam Mayor, and also congratulations on your appointment. You'll enjoy it, and you'll have a lot of good memories after you've finished. I won't let the cat out of the bag yet, not till next year, because both Ron and Chris, myself, being board members of the Gospel, which I was the epicenter of the universe, in my certain place. But Ron is, as Chris said, very, very caring man who looks after the community for Gospel Day. He does all the communion for the Catholic Church, to people who can't get out, infirm and housebound. So he does have that ethos of caring for people. I won't progress it too far. I'll let the cat out of the bag next year. He'll be dreading that by the time the next 12 months is over. But there is certainly a good catalogue of events that we'll discuss. Putting that on one side, can I move a second that the Councillor Ron Conway be elected as Deputy Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Wigan for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. There's no blackmail in there, Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you.
I will now invite the new Deputy Mayor to make the declaration of acceptance of office and to sign the Code of Conduct.
I, Ron Conway, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of Wigan, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the Council's Code of Conduct in the performance of my functions in that office as that code stands from time to time. Deputy Mayoress, Janet Clare Conway.
The Deputy Mayor will now return thanks for his election.
I think I'll stay sat down for this. First of all, thank you very much for electing me to be Deputy Mayor. And congratulations to Madam Mayor. So, very well done. Before, it's a very short speech this, because the last one will have to be short. I would like to thank Councillor Phil Cullen and the family. They've been a great inspiration to me, because we all know what they've been through. But Phil's been a real good friend, so thanks Phil. I'd like to thank the two ward colleagues for nominating me for this position of Deputy Mayor. I intend to work during this year to support the Mayor in her duties and also in helping her to raise as much money as possible for a chosen charity. It's Guide Dogs for the Blind. If you've not seen them down there, I might have one over me. As I said just before, I'd like to pay a special tribute to the outgoing Mayor, Phil Cullen, for encouragement and advice, and to mention in particular courage and dignity she has shown during this year in office. I'd like to wish her all the best, good health, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, members. We'll now adjourn for about 15 minutes while the photographs are taken and the Mayor and Deputy Mayor's personal guests are taken through to the Mayor's parlour. We will reconvene at 2:15. Thank you.